Welcome back to the Always Reading Book Club. It is your girl Kiki Reader, and we're gonna do another standalone from a series. So this one is called the Made Men series. It's by Renee Rose, and we are going to dive into book one. Don't tease me. We meet Lexi, and she has just landed back in Newark Airport after going to a conference where she was learning how to basically be a trainer. So she's been an independent hairdresser for a long time, but she recently got a corporate job with this hair care company, and she has to go to a few more, I think a few more cities. One of them was like Tucson, and she's got to finish up these workshops, and then she'll be able to start training. So when she gets off the plane, she's about to get her bag, and then someone says, "Are you Lexi Tyler?" And she's kind of looking like, "Who's asking?" And the woman's like, "FBI." So she, of course, is like, "What the heck?" Like, "No, thank you." And they're like, "This isn't a question. Like, you're coming with us." So then they are asking her about her job, and they're like, "So you've been a hairdresser for about 12 years, um, all that type of stuff." And they're like, "You mean to tell us in the past 12 years you haven't made any tips? Are you really that bad at your job?" And she says, "I've barely made any tips to really claim. It's not that much." She's like, "And if you can look and see, I don't really make that much money." And they're like, "Well, you owe back taxes." And so they're looking at hitting her with tax fraud charges, all kind of stuff. They know she's just started a new job. They're like, "I don't think your new job is going to let you take a leave of absence if you're going to prison." They're like, "Unless you cooperate and help us with Bobby Mangini." We go back 6 weeks and we switch to Bobby's POV. You already know I love when the books do that. So Bobby owns a construction business as well as a real estate business, and he is also a part of the mob. So the family basically washes the money through his legit businesses, because they really are pretty much, they're above board. So they've got their legit businesses, and these are the ones that clean the money his. So he's at a club called the Swank, which is owned by the mob as well. One of his cousins owns the place. And I can't remember which one. They named a lot of people in this book. I don't remember the name. However, there is a waitress there named Gina. And Gina has a boyfriend named Leo that works as a bouncer there. And so Gina comes up to Bobby and tells him Stacy's here and she's making problems. So we find out that he was Stacy's sugar daddy. And he didn't know that she had like a cocaine problem, some other issues. So, being that he was taking care of everything for her, she lost her easy street, right? So, she's been spazzing out ever since he kicked her to the curb. So, he gives Gina $100 to like get rid of her. And she's like, "Okay, I'll take care of it for you." So she leaves. So the guys are all playing cards. Um, they of course are bothering him about settling down. One of them says, like basically it's time. He's like, "Listen, I was married. He got divorced like 5 years ago. He has daughters. We don't know how old they are though." And he's like, "Did it once, not doing it again." He likes to keep his woman kind of like a mistress, right? Because he puts them up in an apartment, gives them whatever they want, but he doesn't do real relationships. They're, at his beck and call. He's in complete control. He prefers it that way, you know? So one of the other guys, again, too many names, we're not going to remember him, but one of the other guys he just had a baby with his wife, and they have a compromise, right? They have a pretty decent relationship, because they listen to one another, you know? So he can go out and play cards, and she can go to her erotic fiction book club that she loves so much. So, they switch off. And it works out for the guy even more so because she reads those books and then she wants to try some of it out. So it's a win win. So then we switch back to Lexi, and she's at the swank because Gina is her best friend. We find out that Lexi's been having some really hard times, okay? She's behind both her rent for her apartment as well as her booth at the salon. She's like 3 months behind. She's even had an eviction notice put on her apartment door. But what happened is she was in a car accident, and there were a bunch of medical bills, and so it threw everything off for her. And so she's trying to get back together, right? Because she wasn't able to work for a while, and so she's trying to get everything caught back up. So Gina's like, "You need a sugar daddy." Because she was asking about picking up a second job, right? She's like, "Are they hiring here?" And she's like, "I can maybe do part time." But Gina's all about, "No, you need a sugar daddy, you know? And Lexi's like, "I'm not like that. That's not me. It doesn't work." And while she's sitting there, there's a guy named Jaden who's sitting next to her. And he's like, "Let me buy you a drink." And she doesn't have but a couple bucks in her pocket. And she needs everything to go towards these rents that she owes. So she lets the guy buy her a drink. But the problem is, he doesn't have really good conversation, and she's regretting accepting the drink. So she was about to tell him, send the drink back, you know, 'cause she was going to go ahead and leave. And he's like, "Why are you leaving?" And she's like, "Because I have to work tomorrow." He's like, "No, no, no, you can stay for another drink. Just stay for another one." So he orders her another one. So another one. So he just disregards everything she says. Just just bamboozles right over everything she says. And so she's like, "Okay, I got to use the bathroom though." So she goes to use the restroom, and there's a way to sneak out back. It's an emergency exit, and she figures she'll ask one of the bouncers there to let her out. Well, she comes out of the restroom, and the Jaden guy is like right there, and he grabs her arm, and he's like, "Where are you going? I bought you 2 drinks." And it's like, okay, you bought her 2 drinks. She didn't want them. She told you she had to leave. You didn't want to accept that. And now you're being physical with her because you overheard a conversation she had about a sugar daddy, which, if you listen to the conversation, her friend was telling her she needed a sugar daddy. She never said she needed one or wanted one. So it's just kind of like, who the fuck are you? And this is why sometimes women, this is me going off on a little tangent, why sometimes women don't want to accept drinks from guys. For this very fucking reason. Because now people feel entitled to your time when they offered to buy you the drink. And I think what irks me with this guy even more so is she tried to send the drink back. She did. She tried to give him a shot, right? But his conversation was fucking piss poor. So she decided, you know what? He doesn't need to buy me a drink. I don't need to talk to him. But he didn't want to accept that. And now he's taking it out on her like she's done something so awful. I'm just like, this guy is insane. We get a little backdrop, and we find out that she's, how do we put it? She's never been like spoiled or anything like that. She grew up with a single mom. Her mom worked like 12-hour shifts. She was a nurse. Her dad lived in Pittsburgh. She rarely saw him because he went off with the new girlfriend and her kids, and so he was in a new family, and that's where his focus was, right? So she doesn't know anything about being spoiled. And that was the reason, thus, her friend was just like, you deserve, like, you need to be spoiled. You need to let someone take care of you. Because it did seem like she was failing. I'm just saying. And so she wanted to introduce her to someone. Well, guess who comes in to save the day? Mr. Bobby. So Bobby jacks up the Jaden guy. Um, Dude was about to pass out. He asked her if she wanted to press charges. She said no, so he let the guy go, whatever, but pretty much let him know he couldn't come back there anymore. Um, he tells the guy, when a woman tells you no, the answer is no. So now they're talking, and he's like, "Can I buy you a drink?" But this time he said it to her. It didn't feel like creepy and grimy like with the other dude. So she agrees. And so he buys her a drink, and they're sitting there, and they're talking. And her friend Gina comes up, and it's like, "This is who I wanted to introduce you to." So they're talking, they're going back and forth, and he's noticing things about her, you know, and she's noticing things about him. He's very fine, and he's attractive, and he's looking at her the same way. And he asked her, "What does she do?" She said she's a hairdresser, and he says, what did he tell her? He said, "I should have known that you look really nice, like really keep yourself up." He sees a scar on her leg. He didn't say anything about it. Um, she asked him if he owned this place because she was looking for a second job, and he brought up the thing about, he didn't doesn't own it. It's someone else, but it's like his family's place or whatever. One of his cousins owns it. Um, but he brought up the thing about being like her sugar daddy. So she's like attracted to him. So she is interested. So they have a little bit more conversation, and then he winds up asking her if he can. What did he do? They wind up kissing, just kind of to see if there was like chemistry. Of course, chemistry's off the charts. And then he's like, "Let's get out of here." And she's like, Is this the second part of the interview?" He's like, "Yeah." So she doesn't have a vehicle, so they get in his electric Porsche, and he takes her to the Four Seasons, and she's just a little stunned that all of this is happening. And while they're in the car, he appears to be in his like mid 40s when she looks at him, mid to late 40s. And she had asked him, if his parents were still alive. He said no, they're dead. He's fifth generation here, but his parents were born in Sicily. So she didn't directly ask him about the mob, just kind of like, you know, she could just kind of tell with the conversation that he wasn't going to tell too much, but based upon what he was saying to her and what she'd already heard and known, this guy was clearly a part of the mob, right? He does let her know, like, we're not going to have any conversations about my familia, that's just the way it works, and we won't have any problems, right? Which makes perfect sense to me, because no matter what he does, if you don't know about it, then you can't be implicated in anything. Makes perfect sense to me. Um, he's liking her for a couple reasons. Yes, she's attractive, but it appears this isn't something that she does. So she's not like a prostitute. Um, he can tell based on the conversation she's having some issues with money, because if she's asking for a second job, there's clearly extra money that's needed. So he can help her there, you know. And she doesn't appear to be like one of those crazy ones, which like he just dealt with the crazy girl, because his crazy radar is up. So he doesn't feel like if they part, she's gonna wow out. She seems okay. She seems pretty normal. So they get to the room, and this suite is like way bigger than her apartment. And so they get inside, and they start kissing. He takes her to the bed. He strips her down to her panties, and she's thinking, thank God she had on, a matching pink and black bra set. And he tells her to keep her heels on. And then he takes off her bra, sucks her titties, and then he takes off her panties. And again, he has her leave on the heels, and then he eats her pussy. We find out she's never come with a partner like during sex or when someone's gone down on her. She's never orgasm. So he gets a condom, tells her to put her legs on his shoulder, and he fucks her just like that. She's about to come. He tells her to turn over. And the whole time he's talking to her, it's very dominant. And she is very much giving off submissive. And she's liking the way he's talking to her because it makes her feel like she doesn't have to think, which is something that, and I've done a couple of books on this channel about, dominant submissive relationships. And that was a part of it, that the submissive loved it because she didn't have to think. It was like their brains always had to be thinking, thinking, thinking. And for those moments, they had someone they completely trusted and they didn't have to think. I don't think I could ever trust anyone that much. But I just found it like, okay, this is a reoccurring theme when we ever have books where there's like dominant and submissives. So Lexi didn't even know she liked this type of stuff, but it turns out she really does. Um, so he turns her over, um, and he tells her she can't come until he tells her. She's like, oh my gosh, please let me come. Finally, he tells her to come and she comes. She likes being dominated. So then afterwards, he tells her, she can order anything she wants from room service. She can get herself something from the gift shop, charge it to the room. And then he puts some money on the counter and just kind of tells her, like, if this is something she wants to do, she'll reach out, she'll get back in touch with him. So they have not exchanged numbers. So in his mind, he's pretty much like she'll find a way to get to him. I guess is his way of looking at it. He did want to stay there with her, but then he was kind of like he didn't want to suffocate her, so he left. Lexi is going to color Gina's hair. She needs some photos for her portfolio. I can't talk. Portfolio. Because she's trying to get this job as a trainer for a company that pays $120,000 a year to go around and train people how to use their hair dyes. So there's a woman there that works at the shop with her as well, named Andrea, and she's done her hair as well and put her in the portfolio. So then, of course, Gina wants to know what happened. So she winds up telling her what happened, and Gina's like, why not just go ahead and do the damn thing? You might as well. Because that morning after, Lexi, she ordered room service, hung out, and she's thinking, you know what, maybe I should just go ahead and do this. Afterwards, she goes to her apartment. Guess what? Locks have been changed. She goes to like I don't know if they're the maintenance person, um, the manager of the building. We'll say that. And he's like, I'm sorry. Like, it came from the higher ups. I had to change the locks. She's like, but I have $1,100. And it's like, the girl is 3 months behind. So it's not even the full amount of what she owes, right? And the guy tells her, he's like, listen, I'm sorry. He's like, I really am. But she's thinking, like, wouldn't they just want someone that they already have who can pay? Well, first of all, you can't pay. If you could have paid, we wouldn't be having these issues. So you can't pay. And plus, the manager guy tells her they're going to be upping that rent to $1,600, and they've already got 3 people lined up to pay it. She can't even get her stuff because the doors are locked. And he tells her, you've got to deal with the landlord to see when they'll let you get it. That's how that's got to work. And she is just crumbling. So she goes to the swank to see Gina, but runs into Bobby. And Bobby, of course, can tell she's been crying, can tell something's wrong. He's like, what's wrong? She's like, I just had a hell of a day. He buys her a couple shots. Gina comes over. He leaves. He did tell her, he's like, did you think about it? And She's like, she doesn't have an answer right now. So Gina, is like, what's going on? She tells her about the whole eviction. She's like, oh, I'm so sorry. She's like, you're more than welcome to crash on my couch. I'll give you a key. So then she leaves because Bobby comes back. Gina leaves. Bobby comes back over and he wants to know fully what happened. What's the situation? So she tells him and he tells her, I'm so sorry. He's like, but this is kind of like the perfect situation for you. He's like, now, you know, we can really maybe look at this. And she's like, what should I expect? What do you expect from me? And the fact that she wants to know more, he already knows. He got her. But he tells her, I'll provide for you. I'll put you up in my apartment. It's a luxury apartment. He's like, I do need to know where you are. If you have plans, you have to cancel them if I want to see you. You are at, kind of at my beck and call. You are. He's like, you will have time to yourself, but that's kind of how it is. I will spoil you. I'll buy you gifts. I'll give you whatever you want. Well, now, of course, she's gonna agree to it, right? So they get in his car, they head to the apartment, and while they're in the car, he asks about the job that she was talking about earlier, and that he kind of tried to help her with her confidence, like giving her that boost, like, say it, you are a good hairstylist, give yourself that confidence, because she had never really said out loud that she was good, so it did help her. So they go upstairs, beautiful apartment, cleaning lady comes, I don't know if it's twice a month, twice a week, something like that. There's a gym there, pool on the rooftop. Great situation, okay? So she has accepted. They wind up kissing. He winds up eating her pussy again. And then he bends her over, he smacks her ass, and he keeps doing it. And it starts to hurt her. But it's like this weird sensation. And then he puts the condom on, he fucks her hard, she comes super hard. And afterwards, of course, he was like, how did you like it? You know? And she was just like, how did you know I would like it? He said, honestly, I didn't, you know. But he also can kind of see that there's a submissive in her. So I guess it is what it is. He was like, I also figure, we'd find out. If you didn't like it, you let me know. He lets her know this is not a relationship. She cannot fuck anybody else, nor date anybody else. He doesn't do that either. So it's not like he gonna be out getting other pussy either. Okay? That's not gonna happen. So he tells her he has his own place. He is not married, because she was wondering that. Um, but we find out, she doesn't know this, but we find out that he has a set of twins that are 19 years old. They go to NYU, but they live with him because he really didn't want them living in dorms. Okay. Um, so it's just kind of something he knows, like, okay, right now, this should work. If we need to change the parameters or renegotiate down the road, he's willing to do that. He's open to that, which I think is pretty good, right? For him to be so dominant and so, like, needing control, but being willing to, if we need to look at some stuff later, we can do that. We switch back to Lexi. She gets a text message, and they've gotten her stuff. He's going to meet her at the apartment instead of picking her up from work. She's like, that's cool. She gets to the apartment. They've got all her stuff there. The furniture they've put in a storage unit that's in the building. But all of her other stuff, it's in boxes. They've got it there. She, of course, thanks them. And they're like, anything for Bobby's girl. So then she's like, okay. He had asked her to get a short skirt. So she got one of those. She fluffed her hair, put on, like, sexy lingerie. So when he came over, he was like, you're not going out like that. And she's like, why? What's wrong? He's like, because I'm going to have blue balls the whole time we're at dinner. So he winds up fucking her against the wall. And they both came. And he's like, oh, I messed up your hair. She's like, it's okay. So she fixed herself up. And then they go out. There's this Italian restaurant. I think it's called L'Amore. And she I'm sorry, he told like the maitre d', the person that owned the place, like this, treat her like a princess. Whenever she comes here, it's on my tab. You give her whatever she wants. And for her, she's thinking like, okay, this shit is nice. She knows it's not going to last forever, but for now, this will work. He gives her a new phone. He told her this one, it can't be, tapped or traced. And so he switches the SIM card into it and all that stuff. And they eat, then they wind up going back. They fuck again. And he goes home to the girls. So it's around midnight, and one of his daughters, I think it's Juliana and Janine. So Juliana's up. She's making meatballs at 12 o'clock in the morning. She's like, I just figure when I do want them, I'll have them, and then I'll eat them. Okay. No, she's waiting up to see what his ass is doing. That's what I think. So the other daughter comes in and they're like, you've got a new girlfriend, don't you? He's like, why would you think that? And they're like, because you were too happy when you came home yesterday. And then you told us you weren't going to make it home for dinner tonight. They're like, you have a new girlfriend, don't you? And we also find out that they had told him after the divorce from their mom, they told him they never wanted him to get remarried. Like, promise that she'll never remarry. But they were like, Dad, if you're listening, if you're remembering that, like, don't think of that. We were young. We didn't know any better. We want you to be happy. And he said something like that he doesn't do. He told them her name is Lexi and that she's a hairdresser. She's really smart. And they were like, are we going to meet her? He's like, nope. He likes keeping everything separate. And so then he gets a call from Joey, who's someone in the familia. And he says that the construction company, the feds are like poking around. They want to know if money was given for him to get those bids. And so he's like, we should be fine. I've covered up everything pretty good. He's given donations through like 3 different companies, and he made like a cash payment, I want to say like 50 grand to the guy, the mayor. But he's like, as long as he didn't deposit into the account, we should be fine. But the feds are sniffing around, and he just kind of says they always come sniffing. It's just how it is, but we should be good. We switch back to Lexi, and she gets confronted by the owner of the salon about her back pay. And she's like, I'm so sorry. I was going to make a payment to you today. It's just taking me a lot longer to dig myself out of the hole. And so the woman's like, I need the money, So she goes to her purse. She gives her like $900. And the woman's like, you've had this much money? And you hadn't made a payment? She's like, no, I just scraped this money up. And I was going to give it to you today. It's a lie. But that's what she tells her. So I'm like, okay. But the woman's like, you still owe $2,500. She's like, if you don't have it by the end of the month, you're out, Lexi. And Lexi felt like, they weren't the best of friends, but they were friendly before. And she didn't like how she approached her. But it's like, bitch, this is a business. And if you're not paying your portion, then she's not able to pay the rent and the things that she has to pay. That's how this works. Fuck the friendship part. That's also an issue. If you thought you were friendly, why the fuck you didn't make a better effort to get her the money? You know what I'm saying? That works both ways. People always try and do it to where it's one-sided. Oh, why didn't you think about the fact that I've been down on my luck? Yeah, but she's let you go 3 fucking months not paying your booth rent. And that means if you're not paying it, she's had to come up with it. How fair is that to her? It's not. So she was doing too much. Even though she says she knows the woman didn't say anything wrong to her, it just hurt her feelings because she's, I guess, just sensitive. But money listen, you have things you got to pay them. It is what it is. And that woman could have, after a month or 2 months, could have said, you're out, but she hasn't kicked you out. But this was her first time approaching you about the money in 3 months, and you felt like she shouldn't have come to you. Like, girl, bye. That was a little beyond naive and just stupid to me for her to think that way. Even though later on in her thought, she does feel like, I know I owe the money and I understand, but it just bothered her. But I guess it's because you don't want to. I guess it's a reminder that you're failing at life right now. Right now, you're failing. Doesn't mean it's not going to change, but right now, you're failing. I guess that was a reminder. What I didn't mention is the reason she has that money, because every time he's come around to her, he's like thrown her some money. So that's how she was able to like get up that amount. Um, So anyway, then she's thinking about she still has like I guess medical bills that are like 30 grand. Um so my thing is just like, did you just start back working? Like, what were you doing? Like, you can't claim medical bills are the problem and you weren't even paying them. Like, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know. But she just seems just not very mismanaged. She really does. So anyway, we switch back to Bobby. He gets a phone call from the mayor. The mayor's calling him from his office, so he hangs up and calls him from the burner phone. And he's like, "Are you fucking stupid?" And he's like, "You can't call me from the office. You know they've got those phones tapped. So he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Da 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 da. And so the press apparently are poking around, asking questions, and he's like, "What did you do with that cash I gave you?" Is what Bobby asked the mayor. And he's like, "I spent it." He's like, "I still got some of it in the safe, but that's it." And he's like, "Well, you need a clean house. Make sure you have everything in order." He's like, "I'm going to do everything on my end and we'll be fine. Just act like a fucking mayor." So I guess apparently the Democrats are trying to get them out, um, because they know, like, I guess the Republicans in this place, they have ties to the mob, so they want to get him out. So they're trying to find a way. So he knows the feds definitely pointed the press in that direction to get that ball rolling, right? Um, so it looks like the feds are coming heavy after him, because this is crazy, and hopefully the mayor hasn't done more than what he says, and he didn't put anything in a bank account that can be traced. Fingers crossed. Lexi goes to see Gina, and of course, she's like, "How's it going?" She tells her it's going good, but she hasn't heard from Bobby in like 4 days. So she's starting to get a little worried. So then a woman comes up, and Gina makes a face, but she doesn't say anything. She walks away. So the woman's like, "I heard you talking about Bobby. Is that who you were talking about? I saw you leave with him last weekend." And she's like, "Why? Why are you asking me?" And she's like, "Well, we hook up from time to time." So Lexi does realize, okay, this sounds like an ex, right? But the girl's telling her, he switches phones all the time. I've been trying to reach him, but I can't. And I'm like, well, if y'all are cool, he would have gave you the number, right? So then the girl says, well, I have his home number, but I've called it a couple times, but he's not picking up. So Stacy's like, I'll give you his home number if you show me the number you have. And this dumb bitch falls for it. I was just like, this bitch is stupid. You know? So then she shows her the number and she's like, oh yeah, that's the one I have. And then the girl says, she leaves after that. Then Gina comes over, and this is what irked me on a couple levels about this, okay? First of all, Gina, you knew who this bitch was. So why the fuck didn't you say anything to Lexi right then? You could have shut that shit down. Okay? So that was piss poor on Gina. Being the fact that this is the person you were trying to hook her up with anyway, you know the situation, and you see this bitch, you know the bitch crazy. Why not try and stop the bullshit off rip, right? You were okay with getting her out of the bar for $100 from Bobby, but your friend, you just gonna sit there and let her fucking sink. You know, that's fucked up, okay? Not feeling Gina right now. Then we have Lexi's dumbass, who, if a bitch come up to you and you got enough sense to know this is a fucking ex, right? You know this. Why the fuck would you even attempt to listen to anything they got to say about his phone? About numbers? Why would you do that? But you're so desperate because you haven't talked to him in 4 days, right? So I get it. But still, that whole thing was, it just screamed setup. And it was like she knew she should be on guard, but then she wasn't on guard. It was just so fucking dumb to me, her reaction. Because Stacy shouldn't have been able to look in your fucking phone. And she shouldn't have been able to tell that you hadn't talked to him either. Like, you just, oh. When I tell you naive and you can tell, good grief. And clearly Stacy can tell she's a simp. She can tell. She can tell. And she was able to pull that shit right out of her. It's just flat out amazing how dumb Lexi ass was, and Gina ain't shit to me. Lexi goes home, and eventually, guess what her dumb ass does? She calls the house phone because she accepted that number from Stacy. Because she's thinking like, I need money for the end of the month for the booth rent, you know? And so she called him. Well, we switched to Bobby's POV. We find out he has had a really long day dealing with the feds. There's a possible raid on the horizon, okay? It's 11 o'clock at night. Home phone rings. It's Lexi. He goes, why are you calling? How did you get my number? And she's like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like, well, I didn't have your new number. He's like, I text you my new number. She's like, no, you didn't. I don't have it. He's like, are you at the apartment? And she's like, yeah. He's like, I'm coming over there. So he comes over. Come to find out, on his way over there, that's when she checked her phone, right? And she saw where he did text her the information. But because it didn't pop up as a new message, she didn't see it. So thankfully, she had the new number, but she didn't give it to Stacy. But here's the thing. If she would have done it out of desperate tip, she would have done it. If she had known she had the number, she would have done that shit. That's the crazy part. And so I don't know, the fact that she can't tell, clearly that girl wants that man back. You know, you got the dude and she's trying to get him, and you can tell. It's just as clear as day. It's like it, so I can't. But anyway, she he gets over there, and she tells him, "Oh, I do see where you called. She apologized, X, Y, and Z." Um, but he's still like kind of pissed, a little pissed. He tells her she's gonna have to get punished, and so there's fear and excitement that goes through her when he says that. So he makes her strip down, lay on the bed, and takes his belt, smacks her across the ass, and she takes it at first, but then that shit starts to hurt. She's like, please, please, please. He's like, we stop when I want to stop, when I've had enough. And then, of course, he's asking her, like, are you going to ever give my number to anybody? She's like, no. Are you going to talk to anybody about me? She's like, no, no. um, so, like I said, she just silly to me at this point. And him smacking her ass, especially when he done tried to get rid of the crazy girl. But then again, you should have gave her a little bit more information too, and it shouldn't have went no 4 motherfucking days that you didn't talk to her either. Like, you should have known she didn't have the goddamn number because she wasn't texting you. So he failed as well in making sure, like, if you gonna take care of me completely. Like, you want this is the role you said you could handle. So if you notice for 4 days she ain't text you, ain't said nothing, common sense says the bitch ain't probably fucking seen the message. You know what I'm saying? That I'm gonna say that in her defense, but she still was stupid. We then switch to Bobby's POV, and before he gets the condom out, um, he is like laid out on the bed. He's naked. She sucks him off, but he doesn't come in her mouth. He tells her to sit on him, and so she does. And so she puts the condom on and she sits on him and they have a nice hard fuck. So then afterwards, they were kind of sitting there or laying there and they have a little heart to heart. And so he asked her, he's like, tell me what's really going on with you. Do you need something? And she was just kind of like, how do you know what's going on? Like, something's going on with me. Like, how are you able to do that? And so she tells him about the booth rent situation. And he apologizes. He said, I'm sorry. I thought the only issue you had was the rent for your apartment. I'm sorry. I should have asked what other things you needed catching up on. And of course, he's not mad at her at all because now he understands she only reached out because it was like something she did need something, and that's why she did it. She also tells him, because he was like, how did you get so far behind? And she tells him she got into a car accident. She got T-boned. And car got totaled. And she had to have knee surgery. She was out of commission for a few weeks. There's no medical insurance. Medical bills are like over 30 grand. And she was going to be able to make some leeway with some things, but it just took her a lot longer to get back to work. And so, of course, he understands. And it also makes sense to him as to why she's a little skittish when they're in the car. And he says, it sounds like you've got PTSD. And he's like, I know someone who can help with that because he had to work through some things. And he opens up to her and tells her that when he was 16, he saw his father get killed. And so he took care of the guy, aka killed the guy that killed his father. But he has a thing with blood. It's a trigger for him. And what happened was one day it got so bad, his kid comes up to him and she's got a bloody nose because of a fight she was in, and he whips out a gun. He's ready to like take out everybody. And so that's when he went to get help, and he did one session of EDMR, which is a type of therapy which is like it deals with all of your senses, so it helps you not have, reactions to things. And so he says he was cured after one session and he's been good ever since. I don't really trust that cuz some type of trauma that has sat with you for so many years, you're telling me one session cured you? No, I think it helped you maybe uh, have some techniques that work, that help you, but there's suppression still going on with you, is what I think. I could be wrong. Maybe he really was cured after one session. I just don't think he was. So he tells her, if you want, I'll make an appointment for you, X, Y, and Z. And she's down for it because, it's an issue for her. She does want to get past it. So that's always good when people want help. um, he says that she told him about the Stacy girl and what had happened. And he said, how the Stacy girl, she's gotten out of control. He's not going to be able to protect her too much longer because the family is going to see her as a threat. And if that's the case, then hey. And you know what? I'm sorry, but I can't really feel sorry for you because you already know what the situation is. So why would you do stupid shit? You know what I mean? Like, why would you play with people that you know they'll take you out in a heartbeat? Why would you play with somebody like that? Just saying. Bobby doesn't stay. He goes home. He spends most of the night thinking about her, wishing that he hadn't left. Because after a punishment, it's important that you provide wonderful aftercare, because there's a lot of emotions that will be going through someone, and you know, he realizes he should have stayed. So he tosses and turns all night. He can't stop thinking about her. He jacks off in the morning, and then he gets the rest of the money out of his safe to give to her for her um, booth rent. Heads over to her apartment. She's in her pajamas eating cereal. She's shocked to see him. And he was just like, I wanted to see you and check on you. And she had tears in her eyes. And she's like, I don't know what's wrong with me. He's like, no, it's my fault. I should have stayed last night. I know it's a lot of things going through your mind, X, Y, and Z. And her thing is, because it turns her on, but then it worries her that it turns her on. It's a lot, right? And it's like, what if he needs, like, what if it's worse what he does to her and she can't give it to him? Then that's going to be a problem. So just a lot of thoughts that she has churning in her head. So it's been a hell of a week, but he's like, okay, you cry as much as you want, I'm here. She asked him if he was still mad at her. He said, no, baby. He's like, I'm not mad. That's done with. He's like, the minute you laid out and you just accepted your punishment, like whatever, anger I had was gone. He keeps calling her his girl. He explains, what did he say? Like that it turns him on to punish her. Um, he told her he jacked off to thinking about how red her ass was, all this type of stuff, whatever. But he told her, if it's ever too much for you, any of this is too much for you, you can always leave. You're not a prisoner. You're not trapped here, you know? So she's like, okay, she understands. So they go down, they pay the booth rent to the owner of the hair salon, and he feels like um, he's feeling an attachment, um, but he's still trying to keep the whole no relationship thing going. So he feels like maybe he should take a couple days and maybe not go around her, um because again, everything, it just, it doesn't feel like it has in the past with other women. Lexi's at the shop taking care of the her last customer. Bobby walks in. The woman that she was doing her hair was like, who is that? And she's like, that's my date. The woman's like, lucky girl. um and so um who is I think Anissa, that's the name of the shop owner. I forgot that earlier. So they paid her off. She's been okay ever since. And I'm like, of course she got her fucking money. She okay. She just wanted her money. It's not like it wasn't owed to her. It's not like it was a loan. It was money that was owed to her. So of course she's gonna be cool. However, it's made Lexi feel like she wants to leave. She hopes she gets that job so she can go ahead and get out of here. So then the last customer leaves, and he says he wants to cash in because she had said she'd give him a lifetime free of haircuts. So he sits down. She's washing his hair, and it's like very intimate, and he's already hard, and he's like, I need you to sit on my dick. So she takes his dick out. She starts sucking him. He's like, no, I told you to sit on my dick. So he pulls out a condom, and they go at it. She trimmed up, and then he gets a call. He takes it, and he always leaves. He never takes the call in front of her. He always leaves. And again, that's to protect her, right? So somebody ever asks you, you can't say you know shit because you've never heard anything, right? She walked in on him while he was having this conversation by mistake. She really wasn't trying to. And he, of course, snapped at her, and um she was, kind of startled by that. But again, it is for her protection. And he did explain that to her again. And he's like, he apologized. He's like, it's just, I don't want you to ever say you know anything, you know? So then he eats her pussy, fingers her, makes her come, and then fucks again. And then he starts playing with her ass, and he's like, has anyone ever had you back here? And so he wets his fingers, he puts a finger in her ass, and then fingers her coochies the same time she comes again. And then he's like, that call was bad news. He's got to drop her off at the apartment. He wants to stay there, but he has to go because the feds have subpoenaed his financials. Now, he hasn't said this to her, but we know this is what's going on. And the mayor has called him like 5 times already. So it's popping. So the next day she gets a call, or maybe it's been a couple days. I don't remember. But she gets a call saying that she has an interview for the position with Stellar, which is the name of the hair care company, and or I'm sorry, hair dye company. And she is excited. She talks to her friend Gina, tells her about it, kind of lets Gina know it's kind of bothering her that she feels herself falling for this man, and it really can't be anything. And Gina kind of feels her pain because that's going to be the downfall of the situation. So then she calls him. She tells him he's excited for her. He tells her he's wrapped up in a lot of stuff right now. He's going to try and make it over that night. He would like to celebrate, take her out, but he doesn't think he's going to be able to do it tonight. And after she gets off the phone call, she does think, it would have been nice. She was happy that he was excited for her and all. And he did say, I'll take you shopping if you feel like it, get you a new outfit and all this type of stuff for the interview. So she decides to go to the Italian restaurant L'Amour, have some dinner. She takes some photos, put them on her Instagram, and we find out that's how Stella, the company, found her. It was through her Instagram. She had posted, her different styles on there, and they reached out to her through Instagram. So she leaves, gets home about 11. She figures he's not coming. She goes to sleep. She wakes up to him, and he's waking her up. He's like, "Hey, baby," and he asked, what did he say? He asked, he's like, can I have your ass? And she says yes, because she thought it was punishment, but it wasn't punishment. It was something that he likes to do. He didn't hit her hard. It was supposed to be pleasurable for her as well. Then of course, they fuck really hard. And he says about the spanking, he says to her, "Can you believe it's an expression of my love legs?" And I'm just kind of like, why would you say that? Like, why are you using words like love? That should not be anything you say to her. You know, it starts to get conflicting, and it's because you're doing shit that's conflicting to her, Like, why would you ever say that? And it throws her when he says it, of course, because it's like, okay, what is this? Is this real? Like, is it changing into something? You know what I'm saying? And it's just, keep them fucking thoughts to yourself. I mean, unless you want to do something about it, right? If you are ready to talk about a different type of a situation, we're changing things, he's all out of whack because he's had a shit storm of a day. Feds are coming down on him, but he's not leaving her tonight. Tonight he is going to stay with his girl. So the next day he takes her out shopping. He knows he's in trouble because he knows he's falling for her. He knows she's already there, but he just can't bring himself to like tear away from her. So after they go shopping, she asks him, "Well, just let me oh, I forgot. Let me back up a little bit. That morning, she asked him, if she could make him breakfast, and he was like, "Really?" And she's like, "Yeah, I want to make you breakfast." So she did that for him, and she genuinely wants to please him. Genuinely wants to do things for him, and that's when it really hits him, the realization of what's going on. So then we'll go back to after they've shopped. She lets she makes him dinner. He knows he should have told her no, because when she asked, "Can I make you dinner?" he was like, "Sure." He said it so fast, and then in his head he thought, "I should have told her no." Because again, this is conflicting fucking shit that you're doing. What you told her this was going to be, this is starting to feel very much relationshipy. Now, don't get me wrong. Now, it's still a relationship, even the kind that he had before, but it's a different type. That's still a relationship. It's just a different type. So she's cooking for him. He goes to freshen up. His phone buzzes, and she didn't know their phones look alike. So she heard a buzz. They got the same buzzes, same ringtones. So she picked it up because she thought it was hers. And she sees the message that says something about, the FBI, X, Y, and Z. Well, he walks in. He thinks she's snooping. And she's like, no. She's like, no, I thought it was my phone. Like, they have the same everything. I thought it was mine. And he thought she was possibly like a snitch. So he told her he was going to punish her. So he took a wooden spoon, had her bend over, take her bottoms off, and hit her with the wooden spoon. Then he took some olive oil and hit her again with it, made it a little bit more intense. Then he told her, I'm going to punish your ass. And he put a finger in there, went knuckle deep, and then he started playing with her pussy, told her to bend over on the couch, got some more olive oil, and took her asshole and fucked her and came in her ass. So she was like, it was intense, but she liked it. And afterwards, she was like, what would you have done with me if I was really an informant? And like his reaction, because when he came in there, it was very dark and it looked like he could have did anything to her. And he never would answer the question. And it's because he doesn't really have to, because she pretty much knows what would have had to have happened if there's a threat to the whole family. You already know what's going to happen. That I will say, that's my first time reading in a book someone using olive oil as a lubricant. That was such a first. We switched to Bobby's POV. He's taking her to a baseball game with one of the members of the outfit, aka the family. So he knows he shouldn't be doing this, but again, he wants to be around her, and so he brings her. It's Dean and his wife Jessie, who just had the little one. He winds up holding the baby. The baby gives him a smile, and he makes a comment to Lexi, do you want children? And as soon as he says it, he's like, oh shit, why did I say that? And she kind of got in a little bit of funk. He tried to get her out of it. Keep in mind, she was nice to talking to Dean and Jessie. She was great. But she wasn't as normal with him, that normal way. Of like that, looking like gooey eyed at him and shit like that. She wasn't that way with him. And he tried to like get her out of that. It didn't work. It didn't. So we switched to Lexi and we find out he dropped her off. He didn't come up. And she was glad. She was relieved because after what had happened at the park, um, she loved the idea of him looking into the child's eyes. And it's never going to happen. And that's just not an option with him. And so she's thinking now, let's get my money up so I can walk away. She decides she's going to go to the pool on the rooftop and enjoy these amenities while she can. Lexi goes to her interview. She thinks it went pretty well. Really felt like it did. She felt confident. She spoke confidently. It was great. So she calls when she gets out and calls Bobby. Normally she would have called Gina, but the difference is when she calls Bobby, he of course was like, "How did it go?" Gina, she would have had to remind Gina of what was going on. Um, so again, I ain't the biggest fan of Gina after what she did at the bar, so I'm not shocked. But anyway, he lets her know he wants to celebrate. He was like, we're going to go out to dinner. I'll pick you up in an hour or so. And so she takes the subway. She finally gets home. Doors open. She's thinking, oh, the cleaning lady. No, the cleaning lady would have been gone by now. Stacy's ass is in there. She has already popped some, well, tried to pop a cork. Clearly, she had a problem doing it because there's pieces of cork in the wine. And she's got the music on, and she tells Lexi Bobby called her and wanted to do a threesome. And in her mind, she's kind of thinking, "Oh, is that what how he wanted to celebrate?" And to her, it was gross, right? And so the one, Stacy's all like, I used to live here, and what did she say? Something like, it was some crap she said, but it was just the idea. First of all, if a bitch is crazy, I want to know why the fuck you wouldn't change your goddamn logs. I'm just saying, especially if you have someone new coming. Yes, it was probably quickly, but you should have had the locks changed. That bitch shouldn't have been able to get in there. Well, we find out my little rant was not necessary. He did change the locks. What happened was, when the cleaning lady was there, the cleaning lady remembered her and let her in. And so that's how she got in. I was like, that little sneaky bitch. Oh. So then Stacy's all like, it would be so hot if we got the party started before he came. He would be so turned on. So I'm like, please, Lexi, don't tell me you're falling for this. But the bitch is. The woman walks over to her and is about to start kissing on her, and she was about to let that shit happen. Bobby comes in. He's like, what the fuck, And Stacy's like, I'm giving you the threesome you always wanted. He's like, get the fuck out. I don't want you here. Then he starts hauling. She starts howling about how, he's not going to keep you for long. He didn't keep me here for that long and all this type of stuff. And then she's like, he used to abuse me. Just all type of stuff. And here's the thing. Lexi already knows about his kink, right? But she's into it as well. But this is a prime example why you get motherfuckers that like what you like, you know? But here's another issue. People lie. So she agreed to it. Now she wants to call it abuse because she's no longer getting the financial benefits from him. But see, the truth was she wasn't into it, but she didn't want to tell him that because she wanted his money. So that's the thing. It's like you can think you found someone who likes what you like, but people fucking lie. You know, it's wild. Um, but again, all of this is she wants him back because she wants the money, she wants the lifestyle back, and clearly he's not close to doing it. So I don't know what this bitch thinks this is gonna prove. How did you think this was going to work? He doesn't act like any other dude with a lot of things. So it's just kind of like, what makes you think that this was going to be a great idea? But I'm just so disappointed in Lexi that this bitch really thought, well, if it is something he wants, she considered doing it. No, bitch, if you don't want to do that, you don't fucking do it. This man done told you how many times, I will never force you to do anything. But at the same time, guess, kind of almost a little bit like a Stacy, bitch, you need the money. But again, the woman has already lied and manipulated you once. She shouldn't have been able to do it a fucking second time, is all I'm saying. She fell for it a little too quick. So anyway, as she's walking out, she throws a wine glass at Lexi. Lexi ducks, but the glass hits the wall and some shards of glass gets in her arm. She starts bleeding. Bobby snaps. Bobby snatches her up. He's choking Stacy. And the dark and dead look in his eyes, it scared Lexi. She had to try and calm him down, bring him back to normal, And she's like, I'm okay. I promise. I'm okay. Nothing's wrong. I'm okay. He finally comes to. He lets that hoe go. She gets the hell out of there. He also had to tell her when she was leaving, like, you pull another stunt, and I'm gonna send my guys over to take everything I ever bought from you with interest. And that got her ass out of there because she realized he ain't playing. But you already knew he wasn't playing. You should have been left him the fuck alone. But anyway, I digress. He realizes that one session did not fix him. So I was right when I said I didn't think one session was going to fix it. I think you probably haven't had too many situations, probably with blood. So this reaction hasn't happened. Um, Maybe you were able to kind of help yourself if you heard a gunshot or a boom. You know what I mean? But yeah, clearly everything came crashing back. So he know his ass need to go back and do some more sessions. Um, he was in a vulnerable state, you know, but he didn't feel like hiding that from her. Lexi does feel like a safe space, and that's good. That's always good. Um, he knows he's falling for her. Like that's it. It's happened. And right now the situation's working, but he knows they're gonna have to look at the parameters of the relationship pretty soon. um, he took the shards of glass out of her arm, and he told her the blood, wine, everything that was in the carpet. He would just buy another carpet if it couldn't be cleaned. He'd take care of it. Just don't worry about it. So then that Friday, she gets the call. She made it to the second round, and the second round is going to be her teaching someone to do the style that they chose. And so she's really excited. Andrea is the only person in the shop that knows about this. So when she gives the thumbs up, she's super excited for her. She swings by to talk to Gina and sees Stacy's ass there. But she doesn't go and sit by Stacy. She sits on the opposite end. Gina and her talk. Gina did remember about the job and asked her if she'd heard back, and she told her she was excited. She told her about what happened with the Stacy girl and how she's not even supposed to be at the swank, because he had also told her not to go there anymore either, but she's here. And so Gina was like, if she gives you problems, I'll have Leo throw you out. And I'm just like, why not have Leo throw her out now? Like, why not? You know? It's like she acts like she's afraid of the fucking girl. So anyway, Stacy comes over and she is saying, you know, what's been on loop in her mind, poor Lexi, is that he's never gonna want a real relationship, all this type of stuff. Because Stacy said all that shit. So that's on loop, right? And she's telling her he's gonna get tired of you and all this type of stuff. And she, you know, she does tell Stacy, I don't appreciate the stunt you pulled. You know, I have nothing to say to you. And Stacy's like, I just tried to share them with you. You know, I tried to make it easier for you. And she just didn't pay attention to her. So then Gina called Leo over and he was like, he got her out of there. She left. And I'm thinking that bitch is probably going to run to the feds. Because clearly she's one of those people that if she seems like if I can't have him, no one will. Like, she clearly seems that way because he is threatening her and threatened her. And she still keeps coming around. Like, she does not let up. So Bobby's at a wedding. He's wishing he had brought Lexi here. The twins are asking, you know, why didn't you bring Lexi? You know, when are they going to meet her? And so then Jesse comes over with the baby and asks why didn't he bring Lexi. This pisses off the twins because they're like, wait a minute, Jesse's met her, but we haven't? So it's a whole thing. So then he talks to the Don, and the guy wants to know the status with the FBI. He's like, it's under control, X, Y, and Z. He's like, who do you think the rat is? And he's like, I don't know. It can't be anyone on my side. I don't tell people anything. And he's like, what about that stripper you had before? Which is Stacy. But he doesn't conduct business. He said he didn't say anything in front of her. So he thought about that message with Lexi that she read on the phone. But again, that was just a message saying about the FBI is coming for us. You know what I mean? It wasn't, there's no business that was discussed in it. So He doesn't say anything about it. Dawn is kind of looking at him like, are you sure there's nothing? He's like, no, there's nothing. 100% absolutely nothing. Because he was not about to say anything about Lexi. Because the Dawn is clearly, possibly, he would have done something to that girl. We switched to Lexi, and he was supposed to come over. He told her he was running late. 9 o'clock, she's texting him, where are you? He's like, I'm coming. It's just taking me a little bit longer. 10 o'clock, she sends him WTF. There's no answer. She's still on the couch. She passed out. He comes in. He holds the phone up. He's like, what is this? And she's like, huh? So she takes his dick out, sucks him, and swallows his cum. But he's like, that's not your punishment. So she gets her punishment, smacks on the ass. She took it. Um, he's like, I'm gonna have to buy you some more though, because he ripped her panties off. He smacks her ass, then he puts the condom on, and we also find out the age difference. So he is mid to late 40s. It's about a 20 something year difference, because he says she is 7 years older than his daughter, so that puts her at 26. So, and then of course, they have that nice heart fuck, and they're good. So he texted the girls to let them know he wasn't coming that night. He stayed with Lexi. They wake up in the morning. He's staring at her, and she wakes up and she's just happy because she's like, you stayed? And he's like, yep. So she asks him, may I suck your dick? And he's like, yeah. So she goes to sucking. He comes in her mouth, and then he starts eating her pussy, and he asks her if she'd ever come missionary style. She's like, she hasn't. She's like, but I probably could with you. So he takes her bra, and ties her hands up, and smacks her clit a little bit, and then goes to Pound Town, and he's telling her, like, he's asking her, like, who owns your pussy and all this type of stuff. She, of course, is like, you. And he, of course, loves when she says that type of stuff, and she loves when he says the you know, dominating type stuff. She loves it. And he was like, he's like, you just need it rough a little bit. And then she kind of looked nervous because she said, I think I just need you. And that she freaked out a little bit because she's showing her cards, but he already knows that you feel something. He already knows it because he feels it too. Next day at the salon, she gets the email saying she got the job. So she is so excited. Andrea tells her there's two girls that are requesting her, and she's like, okay, fine. She's got the time. Money's money. They come over. They're twins. They're looking at her, and they tell her who they are. And she kind of gets upset because she didn't know he had grown children. She didn't really know anything about them because he doesn't tell her anything. And they told her about the wedding the previous night and stuff, and how everything had transpired. And to her, it just felt like, I'm not good enough to bring around his family. I'm not good enough to know anything about his life. And she realizes, I've had it. Like, I can't do it anymore. So she finished with the girls. Well, only one of them. And she wasn't mad at them. It's just that she realized that she's just not important enough to meet, you know? And so, even though the girls were telling them, he really likes you, you're the only one he's ever told us the name and all this type of stuff, it's just like, it's too separate. And she can't do it. She realizes she can't. And so she texts him. He doesn't answer. She called him. He doesn't answer. She looked up the construction company's number, called the office. He answers and says, you're not supposed to call me. And she says, that's what I thought. And she hung up. Then she goes back to the apartment. We switch to Bobby. We find out he's being interrogated by the feds. He knows something's up because when he called her back, she's not answering. She's not answering any texts, nothing. So he gets to the apartment. It smells super clean, but this isn't the day the cleaning lady's there. He finds her in the bathroom scrubbing, and he's like, what's wrong? What's wrong? And she's like, nothing. She's like, she let him know, I can't do this anymore. This is too much. I know you said what it was, but I just can't do this anymore. He's like, we need to talk. We need to talk. She lies to him. She tells him, just give her some space. He's like, okay, we'll talk in the morning. He leaves, but she's got a plan. She's leaving tonight. She packs up her stuff. Now, the stuff in the storage, the furniture, she'll worry about that another day. Um, she just, she'll be able to buy new stuff now. She's got a new job. But she goes to get the key from Gina from the swank, and then she goes to Gina's place and she wants to cry because she clearly was in love with him and it's over. Bobby has a hard time sleeping. He had a dream that the feds were interrogating him and Lexi was standing behind them like she was running it. And he doesn't even try and call her in the morning. He just goes straight to the apartment. As soon as he walks in, he knows she's gone. Rips him apart. He punches the wall. He goes out to the storage area in the basement, sees her stuff, and he's like, okay, at least I have this. She'll have to call me about this eventually. So there's still hope. He's got some type of link to her. He is afraid it's already too late. Plus, she left the cell phone and her keys on the table. We switch back to Lexi. She wakes up the next morning, she got a crook in her neck from sleeping on the couch. Gina wakes up around noonish. They talk. She doesn't want Gina to let him know where she is. She's like, well, what if he goes to the salon? She's like, I'm not going back to the salon. I've got the new job. I'm going to try and start straight away. I've got enough money I can put down for an apartment. She's like, what about the medical bills? She's like, well, I can start paying on those now. She never told him about the medical bills, so they never got taken care of. She winds up finally crying because it's just like she does feel like she wouldn't give up that time with Bobby because it was beautiful. The problem is it can't go any further. It stops. That's what's so hard. So poor Bobby. He has been staying late to like midnight. Saying it's in regards to the investigation, but it's not. He's just trying to keep himself preoccupied. He's fucking miserable. This is like the third or fourth night. He comes home. One of his daughters is there, and they're like, what's going on? He tells them he's heartbroken, which he's never said. Okay? He's never said that before. And they tell him, if you love her, you know, Dad, go get her. You need to make sure she understands what you really feel for her. And so he tried to ask Gina. Gina wouldn't tell him anything. But then after that talk with his daughters, he goes again. He waits like an hour and a half to talk to Gina. Finally, she comes over and he tells her, just kind of pleads with her. He's like, please, would you just tell me where she is? Like, I love her. I will do anything to make this right. If she wants to get married, whatever she wants, I'll do it. Like, I love her. And she still doesn't want, he does say, he tells her, if she still doesn't want to be with me, I'll accept it, but just please give me the opportunity to make amends. So she breaks and she tells him, well, she is in Las Vegas at a conference. She doesn't know exactly where she's staying. She's like, but she'll be back tomorrow. He's like, okay, I can wait until tomorrow. So she tells him, yes, she's staying with me until she gets a new place. She texts the address. And he's like, I'll come tomorrow and I promise I'll be peaceful. I won't cause any problems. I promise. And she says, okay. All right, we've come full circle. So we switch back to the very beginning where we started with Lexi. She's at the Fed headquarters and they already know about the breakup. They're trying to get her to wear a wire. She's like, no. They, of course, keep asking her, what does she know about his business? Does she know about the paid contracts with the mayor? She's like, I don't know anything. And then it all, of course, makes sense to her as to why he tried to keep everything separate. It was for her safety. It was also an emotional wall he put up to protect himself as well, let's just be honest. But it did not work because with certain people, shit doesn't work. She tells them, she gets mad at herself because she realized she should have never called his house phone and shit on the work phone because that, put her in the line of fire. So finally, after 3 hours, They release her, and the guys that moved her stuff are outside waiting for her. And so we switch back to Bobby. Bobby's house just got raided. The girls are worried, but he sent them away to their mom until everything's over. He's worried because he had went first thing checking for Lexi at Gina's place. She's not there, and so he gets a call from the Dawn saying that they picked up his girlfriend. The FBI, they questioned her, and he realizes that's where she's been. So he calls Carlos, who's one of the guys, and they're like, chill, we're not going to do anything to her. But he was so pissed off. He, knew the Dawn had sent them to pick her up because he possibly was going to do something to her. So he tells him, like, he'll kill him. He's like, I'll kill you if you touch her, if you do anything to her. And so um they let her talk to him. She's like, I'm okay, I promise. And he's like, I'm so sorry, I never wanted any of this to touch you, I'm coming to you. So he gets there, rips the door off the handle. He's like, come to me now, baby. And so she latches on to him, and they were like, we weren't going to do anything. But the truth is, if that Dawn had said, take her out, they would have took her out, period. So they talk. He tells her he loves her. He tells her how sorry he is. This was never supposed to make it to her. He's like, I'll fix it all. She tells him what they threatened her with the tax issues and stuff like that. He's like, I will take care of all of it. He told her, even if you don't want to be with me, I will still fix this for you. Like, this is all my fault. She's like, back up. What did you say? He said, I'll fix it. She said, no, what did you say before that? He says, I love you, Lex. I love you. And so she tells him she loves him too. He says, I'll marry you right now. We can go to Vegas right now if you want. I'll marry you right now. He's like, if you want to live with me and the girls, we can. They would love to have you there. He's like, whatever you want, I will do it. And she's like, I want my apartment back. She's like talking about, I still want you, my sugar daddy. And I guess it's just like the dynamic, that level of excitement that they have because of that is basically what it boils down to. But if you communicate and honest, you can have this type of stuff and still be in a faithful relationship. It is what it is. So they keep telling each other how much they love each other. He of course is like, you can have that, it's fine with me. He takes her back to the apartment. They have a nice heart fuck. She's just so happy, and they just keep saying how much they love each other. We get to the epilogue, and we find out that the feds had also picked up Stacy's ass too. The boys, the guys, they talked to her as well. Whatever was said, they have not had any more problems out of that girl. No more. The investigation against Bobby has been dropped. They couldn't find anything. The tax case that was coming against her, the charges hadn't even been filed, but he got that taken care of. He paid off whatever needed to be paid. She confessed about the medical bill, so he paid that for her too. Um, he bought her a Mercedes convertible that the girls helped him pick out. They wanted to see her face when she got it, but he was like, no, this is our private moment. Let us have it. So he goes upstairs, get Lexi. She comes down. She had to put on shoes. She comes, and it's this big bow on it. And, he's like, this is for you. And she's like, oh my gosh. He had also brought her flowers and stuff too, because it was her birthday. She was so excited. She said she doesn't need the car, but he bought it for her anyway, because anything to help her with her issues from the accident, to get her back on track, he wants to do that for her. He's just happy, that they have their relationship. Um, he found someone that gets his kink, which is great. So she's happy. He's about to fuck her against the car. He was like, he wants her to know she belongs to him. And she's like, I already know I belong to you. So he also got her a collar. It's like silver one. And it can go with anything, so it'll fit with any, outfit. And he's like, you know what happens if you don't wear it? She says, punishment. And he's like, mm-hmm. And so then she tells him how much she loves it, thanks him, and he tells her she can pay him back with a blowjob a week. and then again they tell each other how much they love each other, and that's how it ends. I thought this was really cute. Um, I like the fact that he set the parameters of what the relationship was, and when she reached the point that she no longer could do it, she just left. She didn't do the dramatics of blowing the phone up. Why can't you change? Why can't you do this? And what, she didn't do all of that. It was very cut, and it wasn't because she didn't love him. It was because she did. But she also knew I can't force someone to be something they're not. You know, and look at there. He comes running behind her because, yes, because he loved her, but also she was doing that because she did love herself too, right? She realized, I'm not going to get the thing I dream about the most. I'm not going to get this with him. So I got to let this go. Clean break. So I was super proud of her. She pissed me off a couple other times in the book, but I was proud of her how she handled that, cuz that's how you're supposed to handle it. You know, it doesn't mean you don't have feeling and affection, but if this is what it is, if you can't do it, I'm not going to try and bring you over to my side. This is just not going to work. And you'll either decide if you want to change or not on your own. I don't need to force you. So I love that. That was brilliantly written to me, because I like when people just don't beg folks. I don't like when people beg. But I really like this. Again, this is the first book in the series. And there's other books, like two other books in the series, but they're individual stories. So if you guys want to check out the Made Men series, you can do that. Let me know what you guys think. Drop down in the comments and let me know. If you are in the market for a beautiful notebook or journal, I do have those available, and the links are going to be available down below in the description section. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share. And as always, I truly do thank you all for your support, and thank you for tuning in to the Always Reading Book Club.